Wendell and Osick back here with you with the Tour de South 2045 style. And we were just talking about Buffalo, so I don't know, man. I think Osick, I think Buffalo is going to repeat.
I
Three-peat and four-peat.
They are they're very likely to. I mean, they can maybe, there's nothing really they need an super big upgrade other than that. Just trying to
Sheffield.
reconfigure that outfield so you can give your best defense too.
Why did they lose? Why didn't they go to the World Series this year?
Because False Bay, I guess, can come back. I guess they've been here for years, so they just came back. I didn't actually watch the games as much as I should have, so
yeah, it really surprised me that I kind of called in my silly podcast a few weeks ago. Or a week ago, I called False Bay to win the South, but I'm just talking, and it did honestly surprise me that Buffalo did not. Inquist, man, Linus Inquist. This guy is a human hitting machine, and he always seems to hit, in the clutch and hit for contact. He can even hit for power, and it baffled me how he didn't power Buffalo through the playoffs, but he didn't. So, okay, well, let's move on to. Let's see. We talked about Buffalo. Let's move on to Cairo. Let's talk about Cairo.
Alrighty.
Cairo Syrup. Cairo Syrup has got one of my favorite players in the league, and that is Ping Tut. Manuel Marroquin. This guy, we talked about one of the best shortstops in the WBL up there in. Who was it we were talking about? Skeeter?
Skeeter is in Dublin. He's not the best. The best would be you're gonna go Noda, and then right. Then Long had a great season in Buffalo, and then Swagger, and then American.
Wow. So you're putting Ping at the bottom of the top 5? Oh my goodness.
Top 5 actually. Bert's at the bottom of the top 5.
So Ping is outside the top 5?
Nope. Ping would be 4th.
4th. Okay.
Oh wait, no. Yeah, 4th.
So wow, that's the elite, man. Well, Ping, I'm a big fan of Ping. He all he did this year was he got on base 40% of the time, and he even hit a couple of home runs. The guy had a 4.3 WAR to reprise a year in which he had a 5.0 WAR, and at his shortstop position, his fielding is pretty darn sensational. Now,
last year was the big season for him.
Last year he was 8.8 plus 8.8 zone rating. This year, just a tick above average zone rating.
And that probably is what hurt his WAR this year, or just kept it. I guess the biggest thing I know in real life, zone rating takes about 3 years to give you an accurate portrayal of how good their defense actually is.
Okay, so an average of 3 years?
Yeah, because once it's one of those things where it takes a little bit longer to get the reps in, or enough sample size for it to actually be a legitimate thing to be telling you.
Right. Well, I've always been a big fan of Cairo pitching, and they return Silky, which surprised me. I don't know how old Silky is. 93 years old? No, only 34 years old. He hasn't lost a thing, man. He's probably he's not in the last year of his contract. He has a vesting option for next year. So he has to start 30 games this year in order to get that vesting option. And oh my God, people are watching this podcast are going to be like, what the hell's wrong with the uniforms, dog? I'm like, I don't know, man, because Silky is in a bright lime green uniform.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Orlando's playing me a big joke now. So
the thing about Silky is he might not even get that. Last year he only had 27 starts, and he's an injury-prone kind of guy.
Oh, goodness, he's wrecked. Yeah. 27 starts, making $18 million. That's close to $1 million a start, man.
Yeah,
I'd take that, but still, his WHIP 1.14. My word.
Yeah, it's
when he pitches, there's no doubt who's pitching. I watched him dominate some games in the playoffs this year. This guy, he's still bringing it. Seems like he's pitched for everybody now. He pitched for Moscow for a while. Then there's Wooly.
He's
102.
he's legit as well. Well, if you like whip, you're gonna cream your shorts after looking at his.
1.02 whip this past year. 31 starts. His ERA wasn't too shabby at 2.76.
His bat, he's
6.2 WAR.
He's one of the top pitchers in the game, I'd say.
Reptile Tang. Old Reptile, also 31 starts. He went 16-8 this past season with a 3.23 ERA and a 1.04 whip, 4.7 WAR. Jiminy Cricket. Oh, man. And it looks like Cairo has got about 20 guys in his bullpen right now. I don't know who he's planning to add to those three in the starting rotation next year. Did he move a starting pitcher?
I don't know.
He's got Budawani.
He's got. He might need to pick up a pitcher if he just in terms. He's always got the offense to really put him over the edge, but it seems like he needs his pitching to come around. So maybe that's what, as we were talking about before, with all those starting pitchers that are sort of cheaper value, he might be a contender for some of those guys.
Just an innings eater to keep his team competitive so that his bats can win the game.
Yeah. Somebody who'll keep him under maybe 5 runs a season or start sort of thing.
Yeah, he's got, he did the waiver claim of Amit Erez from Vegas. And what do you think about Erez? Is he a good claim, a good bullpen guy?
I could never trust him because his ground ball percentage was 37%.
Right. So he's going to, when the guy makes contact, 2/3 of the time they're hitting it up in the air somewhere.
Exactly. So it's hard. I don't know. I don't like those types of pitchers. His stuff and control make him look like he can be a great closer, and maybe he could be, but I've never just had trust in him. So
well, I agree. The one thing you don't want in a closer is just give up that home run ball, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about pitchers like this. His stuff and control ratings look fantastic. I get all the googly eyes looking at that. But then, yeah, you're right. His 63% fly ball rate is that's a high fly ball rate, and it keeps your outfield busy. You got to make sure you have a good mobile outfield behind a pitcher like this.
Yeah, and he's got Juarez, and Milburn's pretty solid. I mean, Milburn, you can almost start in center field, which I think would probably be not a terrible idea because he's got a better range than Juarez. Juarez is a power-hitting son of a gun. Most this is 2-win season, so
wow.
I mean...
Juarez, good night. James Dean, 21 years old. Look at that. Oh, my word. This guy is 7 years younger Dominique Garnett.
Yeah.
Waiting to happen here.
So yeah, I could see him maybe third base might be actually third base would have been more of an issue if he didn't keep Fiasco. Let's see. So Fiasco, 7.5 mil, not the best bargain in terms of what he did last year. Great defense, or looks good defensive rating, but for third base, 0.7. I guess it's better than.
Well, it's the unusual guy who's not a power hitter at third base, right?
Right.
He only hit 2 home runs and a 77 OPS plus, but he's not going to hurt you at third base at a position that's thin, and he could swing over and play second and even shortstop if he needs to.
And so third base and second base were just other things I sort of saw in him.
Do you? I've got another tangential question here for you. In OOTP, a guy like Fiasco has very good proficiency at second and third base, and he can play short, he can play outfield. We don't really see that in the big leagues. And is this a reflection that OOTP kind of measures something? Why does OOTP have players that can do that?
Maybe because when in the real life they sort of want guys to specialize, it's a lot easier to teach a guy one position, maybe two. I mean, there's the odd guy like Emilio Bonifacio who can be valuable if he's not playing for you every day, but at least he can play 6 positions.
Right.
So if on a contender, giving your guys a rest and giving him one game every 2 weeks doesn't hurt you. But I think a lot of it has to do, say, maybe he came up with a bunch of utility guys. I mean, Ben Zobrist is a guy like that too. And then when he was in the minors, he just got thrown anywhere he could, so they could give everybody reps.
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest thing with not having rookie is you need to get guys with reps. So rookie league would have helped that in terms of that. But or you just start cutting guys who aren't going to be making it. But that's probably what the biggest thing is. As everybody here just tries to experiment and try to get as much flexibility as they can. So they throw them in shortstop for a couple, or like through 2 weeks of the season.
So you think? Do you think there's more specialization that happens in real baseball, MLB, than happens here?
I think a lot of times it's like, I mean, third basemen are usually just tall shortstops.
Okay.
What happens is they draft a shortstop. They see that he's taller than 6'1". Okay, well you're too big. You're probably not going to be able to move around to have the range at shortstop. We'll move you to third. And then they see a guy who's shorter than 5'11", 5'10". Well, you're probably, I mean, an arm strength has to do with this, but you could argue that there's probably some correlation between size and arm strength, which doesn't make all the time sense. But so they throw him at second, and then you've sort of got the guys who are the same height,
right?
And then everybody's prototypical third baseman is a guy who can hit home runs. So they sort of, I'm sure it's not bred into them, but it's sort of taught to.
Right. So it's, I grew up watching the Braves, and I remember Bob Horner was a third baseman, and that guy had the sweetest compact swing you ever saw, and but he was the classic power hitter. He'd strike out a lot, but when he made contact, he was going to make good contact with it. This thing about height, there was a lot of talk on the OTP boards a year or two ago about they were coding in that the taller pitchers would have better stuff or something like this. And so at some point last year, I ran a report to show me who among the top 20 elite pitchers in the league, what were their sizes? What were their heights? Were tall guys dominating? Were they all like 6'7", like Randy Johnson's or something like that? And the answer was no. There were plenty of 5'9" guys in the distribution. There was no predominance of tall elite pitchers out there.
The biggest thing in real life is the taller the guy, the more downward trajectory his pitch has.
Right.
Whereas, say, somebody like Marcus Stroman, who's 5'9", who the Jays are trying to start, you basically, if you're smart, you try to get a guy who can start until he proves he can't. So you try him out. But the thing about 5'9" guys is their fastball is going to end up just staying straight at some point because they can't get that downward trajectory. Say 6'7" or. I mean, I think one time I was listening to Fangraphs, and I think they said the perfect pitcher is like 6'6", like 200 some pounds, sort of thing. Because
6'6", 230 pounds.
It might be 210 or something like that. But it's basically you've got that downward trajectory, so it helps you. But I don't know if it really means a ton of things in OOTP because it's more of a. They should be starting to wire it. It would make sense that they wire it in to stuff. But,
Oscar Fontenot is 5'9", and anyway, Pedro Rat Ramirez 5'10". Plenty of guys are not 6 feet, but you were just saying that, and I was looking at Mustafa Kasib, probably the premier hurler in the WBL. He's 6'5", 210 pounds, so he's right in that size you were talking about there. Raul Torres is 5'10", 165.
So he's like Casey Fossum back in the early mid 90s to late 90s.
Nice. Huh.
A lot of they don't like guys that skinny usually because I think they break down easier in real life. I'm not going to say that Torres is going to break down. He did tear his ACL or something.
Don't say it. I don't know, man. I don't know why any major leaguer's arm doesn't tear down within 3 innings. I don't get it. Well,
speaking of the greatest player, and
speaking of Speaking of, as we move on from Cairo, some upgrades to second, maybe third, maybe another innings eater for a pitcher,
Yeah.
and they're pretty much set. So just a little bit of tinkering with Cairo.
Yeah, their offense is always solid. He always goes after offense. So if you can find a guy who can maybe give him some more defense slash pitching to shut him down, that might help him.
You think Figs is going to go after Gannett?
I think if he has, I think anybody who has the budget can do it.
Okay.
Will probably at least throw a bone his way. At least give him an interview.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about Kasib and Facebook, Team Facebook.
Alrighty, so this is just going to be my thing about Kasib. Not all of it, but man, oh man, he had almost 14 wins above replacement.
Yes.
Do you know what the average was for a whole rotation?
How much?
Roughly about 14.5.
For the entire rotation.
Yes. So odds are he had 1 sec. 1, 2.
So Kasib alone.
He had more wins after this season than about 8 teams going forward.
Wow. Kasib plus 4 guys who were 0 WAR
would have probably been just as valuable as Buenos Aires. My pitching rotation next year, which was coming in at 10.
I mean, but Osick, these pitchers only start once every 5 days. They can't be that valuable.
Well, when you look at some of yeah, that's true. But then you have last resort pitching 5, having a WAR of 5.
Yeah.
And he's only going to get better. You have Boys Keene having a 6.4 WAR. So you can understand why False Bay wins playoff games.
Yeah, for sure.
When you have 3 of the very good pitching, you can sort of get away with some of that stuff. Now, the biggest thing is with False Bay is he needs a replacement for Stutt. Maybe he brings him back. I don't know what his budget's like after the big bug, the $120 bug. But he needs somebody to replace Stutt because he was a very, very productive player for him. So he might be in on the gun at sweepstakes. He likes to make he likes to make it rain.
He does.
Cheaper option might be Vajorov. Not by much cheap, maybe like $8 million. Only $8 million a year. But what's that to a guy who's been in the finals for 2 years?
Would he not bring Stutt back?
He probably could. I mean, he's sort of the medium, mid-level guy, price-wise. He needs a DH. Pincho Nenor was negative 2.7 wins, I think.
That was a startling. I didn't realize that until you pointed it out, but that was a startling gap in this False Bay lineup.
It was a big hole, but at the same time, it was the only hole, I think, in that lineup. Let's see, what else did he have a big difference in? DH was the biggest one, and third base. So I don't think he's actually going to put Cho. Maybe he will put Cheyun Cho there, but he didn't really perform that great last year. 62 games, maybe he thinks he's going to turn it around. So
that's a pretty good sample. 199 plate appearances and a 200 batting average. That's tough to build on. Tough to build on too.
And first base. First base was not a great pick for him. I don't know. Let's see, who did he have last year? First base, he had Chow.
Okay.
Which, I guess his pitching is so good that all he has to worry about is maybe picking up another pitcher if he doesn't have. Let's see, who's he got in the minors. Romero's too young, small, or his control's not there yet, not enough for you to trust him. So pitching probably, if he picks up a pitcher, DH, he might want to bring in somebody. Maybe he's got a power guy that he can maybe try out. I think I traded him Moritz when I got all those third rounders. That might be a guy. He can play third base defense pretty well. Moritz Vandenbosch. He's got great arm, great range, so he's a third baseman. Probably can produce for him, at least defensively. It's better than negative whatever he was getting. Basically, so that is, I said basically a lot.
Yeah.
But DH, Stutt replacement, and third base, and probably keep Kasib as long as possible.
Yeah. I don't know what JD's budget situation is, but I'm looking at his graphical depth chart. He's got a big hole out there in left field, and if I'm seeing this right, it's got Garnett's name penciled in. If I peer at the screen hard enough, so. But
He would be
I
the
don't know.
biggest guy I'd be if I was competing. If I wanted Gannett, he'd be the biggest guy I'd be scared of.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's shown that he will throw his money out on the table.
Yeah, he will, and he does. He does. All right, so False Bay. Basically, you're saying they don't need a whole lot. They need
If they could shore up their lineup, they'd be unstoppable. Almost not unstoppable, but they'd be very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got Indians at second base, and
Charit is a very solid player.
Center field. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Moving on. Who's next? Kabul. The Cobbles. For me, I liken Kabul a lot to Istanbul, the other bull. Patience, to me, is the key. They got a lot of young guys here. They got Neanderthal, Chavez, man. They just got
Perez, Prophet.
Just good night. Look at Prophet. Wow. 20 years old. Holy caramba.
They are, and then you look at their minor system. What's this going?
They are loaded. You got Peppers Pasquette in the rotation.
Yeah,
So,
they've got a good team coming up.
They got a really good team coming up. Just don't trade it away, right? That's to me is when you've got talent like this, bring up what you're going to need, and then be very judicious about trading away, the rest of it.
Yeah, they easily could just keep those guys around. They're all young. Mm-hmm. Make that your core. Try to get some free agents that will come over to you, help them out, so you're not bringing up those 2-star guys or those 1.5-star guys in your minors if they're the right age and you don't have anybody better. So I mean that's the biggest thing is just keep getting those draft picks, keep scoring or keep looking for some of those minor league free agents. Maybe trade a guy who's a little bit older. Like maybe somebody will give you something for Salvador Camelier, or my pronunciation's not great, but let's see. His oldest guys are Terry Evans, Kitamura, Verbin. So he might have some guys that he might be able to trade for the supplemental players. He's got the stars.
He's got the core.
He's got Ruiz as a power hitting guy who's just entering his prime years. Although WBL prime years are a little bit different, just because everybody gets brought up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, true. We get so impatient. We see a 18-year-old Bug out there, and we're like, we got to bring him up. Bring him up. We didn't talk about Bug when we were looking at Facebook, but yeah, Bug is he's looking strong.
Wolfman's first first off season was the same off season as mine, and he really dug deep into the IFA market, and that's how he got Profit.
Oh, okay.
And I believe he picked up somebody else, and I cannot remember who that was, because he drafted Neanderthal. Maybe it was it Chavez? No, Chavez was already there. But basically, he picked up 2 guys, and it might have been a starter. But either way, he dives hard in the IFA when he can. He's willing to spend money on young guys, so he's building through youth, and I mean, good on him. He's building a team he's got stars that I wish I had sometimes.
Yeah. Did he was he the one? Did he draft Homicide, Percy Van Der Esch? It looks like no. Van Der Esch came on in the one. He was 2039, so I guess.
So that would have been their first. That would have still been when Beat Up was around.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. That's when
He's an interesting player, this Homicide.
Uh-huh.
He had the highest WAR of their pitching, I believe. But he had, if you look at his ERA was really high.
5.34 ERA and 1.56 WHIP.
Yeah, and the rest of their pitching wasn't as bad as that. So I'm wondering, I was about to look into why he would be so high.
In the WAR
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a couple more innings than everybody, so I think it's that K to BB, that ratio. Because that's a nice little thing, but I think the other guys, either way, he's an interesting guy to me because he's got a high WAR. So it's one of those things where maybe you figure out how their WAR is calculated through looking at him and another guy.
There's a couple of interesting guys in Cobble's minor league system. He drafted Billy Humphrey, the closer, in the first round, the 1/8 pick of this past draft, the 2044 draft. And Wolfman caught a lot of grief for it, but I'm a big fan. You get a dominant closer with an 80 stuff and great. I mean, you got to have a closer, man. And
the thing about closing is it depends how you look at it. You don't want to spend much on a closer because you're basically you're paying a guy for 1 inning. So if I was a manager, it's more so, I guess if you're looking at like an analytics way, there's leverage situations. So maybe you want to have a guy who you normally would be your closer to be in a leverage situation that's really high, even if it's in the 7th inning. The key around this would be you have to build your bullpen enough where you can trust the guy 3rd down in the row if, say, the 9th inning becomes a little bit sketchy. But, I mean, the thing about Billy Humphrey is his 40 stamina, I've seen Artak do well. The 2 pitching is sort of tough, but he's got so much, well, his stuff's inflated because he's a closer. But yeah, I mean, a relief pitcher can get you, like Coloma got Amsterdam 2 wins, roughly. And he's got a first baseman that can hit coming up, so...
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Wolfman's got this guy, Tien Thu. He's listed in my screen. He's the number 3 prospect and suspended 56 more games for a drug violation. So, do you think Thu is going to come back, or is he history? Is he a pot for life?
Doesn't really. I don't know. I mean, if Wolfman wants to trade him for pennies on a dollar, I'd take him.
I would too.
I mean, the biggest thing about it is you're taking a hit with the fans, but fans like winning more than they like booing a guy who's maybe done PEDs.
I know, right? Disliked. They can show me they're disliked by. Well, you know what? They'll come to my games. Send them to me. Send them to me, Wolfman. I'll take them. So my buddy Gooks to Key West. He keeps saying he's gonna tank this year. What do you think about Key West? Take us down south. Take us to Key Largo.
Well, his minor league system probably wouldn't hurt him to tank. Let's just put it that way. He had
the system.
Yeah, build up the system. Let's see, what's his best player? Hong? Who did I have as his best player?
In the minors?
No, in the major leagues.
Oh, in the majors. Hong.
I mean, he tried to find some value in some places, and he did find some. Like Mark Coates was a great pick. I was looking at him, but I didn't want to spend so much money because I was putting a lot of money into the draft. But Mark Coates was a nice find. He was one of the Dublin Mr. Rad was not immersed sort of thing. Let's see, who else was...
Well, Coates doesn't have a great contact rating. Still, he hit 243 and on base 317 down in Key West with a 1.4 WAR.
He walks a decent amount, and that catching ability and his arm, it's just it's a nice combination. It's
right.
Catching sort of different, and I mean,
true.
It's one of those things where if you can get a guy with a good arm and a guy who can handle your pitching, you almost are fine with him just getting on base.
Right. So basically, with catching, you just want defense is the key.
Yeah, because
defense and on base.
I think it's been statistically proven that catchers' third at bats are pretty much outs. just because their knees are so shot by that time.
Oh, wow.
Third time in the out.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
I don't know if that's completely true, but it's one of those things that it's believable enough where I could see it being true. He had
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, his best player was Chu in terms of, or no, Hong.
Yeah, I'm looking for Hong.
Left fielder.
Let me resort this. I've lost him. He's not even listed. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Jay Hong. Yeah, left field, plays a... he can play the other infield position. Plays a pretty good second base, too.
Let's see.
He has
his arm. Yeah, he can satisfactorily do that.
Right, he can play the pivot. Yeah, he's got that middle finger power. I've always mistrusted middle finger power because, and this is probably from my time in the WBL when I played in Margarita Field, and our field was enormous. It was the hitter killing field. It was the killing fields, and I had to have guys with a 60-plus contact rating to hit at all for average.
Right.
So I kind of got permanently scared away from guys like this who have a 50 contact rating.
Well, the biggest thing about middle finger power is if they're not hitting home runs, then they're sort of, what are they? Mm-hmm. They're basically guys who can't get on base.
Yeah.
Or they have the emptiest of average, or they have a sort of hollow average where they're not doing anything other than hitting the ball. And if they're not hitting the ball for power, then they're sort of just not doing much.
Right.
But, I mean, and they K a lot, which is always a bad idea.
Right.
But Key West isn't a diamond that I think is still a bandbox, so... Mm-hmm. So for Gugsta, I would just... I mean, if you want to rebuild or tank, there's guys in the market where last year you tried to pick up a couple guys on the value. Went after Lamont, who was a minor league guy who wanted a lot of money because of his ratings. Mm-hmm. And seems like they took a hit. But, I mean, you think a guy who's got 2 consecutive close to 8-win seasons in minors maybe would do better.
Right.
But his average was 205 or 208, and he still got on base like higher than... He got on base at a better percentage than Hong did. Mm-hmm.
He's got a tremendous eye, for sure. But, I mean, eye is not really what you look for in a right field, right? You want power, right?
If you can find power somewhere else. Yeah. I mean, Gooks has got, let's see. Plus, his diamond's so small that if you're playing half your games in a joke stadium, it doesn't hurt. Mm-hmm. But Felipe Ramirez has power. Hong hit 30. He's at a 65. So, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is if you can find power in different spots, maybe if you find a second baseman that can hit power, your more traditionally power positions don't have to be power.
Right. As long as you can pick it up somewhere.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm with you. As long as you can drive those runs in somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, a single can drive in 1 run, possibly, but, I mean, home runs are nice.
Mm-hmm. So what are Key West's keys for this year?
If he's rebuilding, I guess don't really add anybody. He's probably going to have to, he's got 29 guys on the roster, so it doesn't look like... But basically just got guys who can plug that hole so you don't have to bring up a guy too early. Mm-hmm. Sort of the same things as... Not quite as bad. He doesn't need quite as big of a thing as Baton Rouge and Berlin. Or Kabul, he's basically trying to become what Kabul is. Basically, you get your stars, then you worry about filling them up. And that's basically how he's going to end up doing it, is rebuilding, trying to get some of those stars. The nice thing now is Feeder League, he can scout them for a couple years. Right.
Oh, he's going to enjoy that. He enjoys scouting as much as anybody in the WBL.
I think we all will.
Yeah. Feeder leagues. All right. Well, you know what? That's going to wrap up this segment, and we'll be back. We're going to talk about expansion.
Yeah. It's been nice giving the Self some of its due.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.